Welcome back to the Hypervision podcast. As you can see, we have a guest. Ian is back for his second episode. This one a bit more serious, more about life. The NFL talk comes next week with Josiah, so that should be fun. Who was already on me about the draft. He texted me individually and was like, "Hey, I'm ready to start." Let me find like the exact wording because I genuinely had no idea what was going on at first. He said he texted me randomly at 1 p.m. on Sunday and said, "I'm ready." I was like, "That's great." No clue what you're talking about though. And he's like, "Fantasy." I was like, "Oh, yeah, we'll get there. Season's, early September. It's fine."
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, he's excited. He really is, which is good. That is good. But yeah, he's been getting on me to get to you, and I was like, well, he's just
there's no need to start right now.
yeah,
Before we get into the guest here and all that, I got two things. One, shout out to our sponsor, Legacy Cornhole. I think I got it right this time. I never know, honestly. Every single week, I never know. But they're doing great work, probably. So go check them out. And two, Noah. Guess who is banned on everything on social media? Pretty much.
Oh, Andrew Tate.
Yeah, your top G.
He's
done.
I never
done.
said I liked him. I never
He's
said
out.
I liked him. I never said I liked him. It was just it's.
You
crazy.
said you had a very close borderline cancelable comment.
I did?
When you said you respected the fact that he was honest about things, but it just if you listen to it and you don't really hear what you're saying, it sounds like you said you respect him because he's sexist.
No. I was just saying hey, it takes a lot for someone to say what, even if it's cancelable or not, just to say what they want to say. I don't know. That's about what I was saying.
He was never afraid of being canceled.
Exactly.
Which usually that works, but I guess not this time. So he's gone. I don't know. I thought that's fun. I enjoyed seeing that. Anyway, we got Ian back. Ian, how are we doing?
I'm quite dandy, man. I'm back from the Colorado air. My skin's a bit drier. Texas is definitely hotter, but I'm glad to be back in Texas, and I'm ready for another year of misery from the Cowboys. So that's
this is what we got in Colorado for. Let's tell the people.
Oh, well, I was working with USA Basketball. I was working in their comms department as an intern and a feature writer. So I did a lot of writing over the summer. And then on top of that, I was able to go to Tijuana and cover one of our U18 junior national teams, write about them. Got to see them win a gold medal, which was something I don't take for granted. I mean, not that I won anything, but it was cool to see the elation and the joy of those 17 and 18-year-olds that have been playing basketball their entire life, and they win a gold medal at the Americas Championship. So that was a lot of fun, and outside of that, I still have some of my feature stories going up on the website. So if any of you are ever curious, go to usab.com and search Ian Kayanja, and you'll find my back catalog of interesting, semi-interesting, and semi-respectable stories.
Love to hear it. Let's see. I don't know if I had any other questions for Colorado. Probably not. Going back to our last episode, Noah, have you heard any responses? I haven't talked to anyone about the episode yet. I don't know if you've talked to anyone. It was a big thing for you. It was your episode, really. I don't know. Have you heard any feedback on it? Like what people are thinking?
It was my episode, but we turned it into you just getting inside my head, which is totally fine. Totally fine.
Well, that's why it was your episode. That's what I'm saying. It was all about you.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it was good. No, I haven't actually. No, the response.
Interesting, because usually your friends listen to it at 7:01 and start going on.
Yeah. No, I haven't. So.
All right.
Maybe soon. I'm sure I will.
Yeah.
I'm sure I will this week. So.
Yeah, and I'll probably, I guess, make a post sometime later this week about the sweatshirt stuff. See what people thought about that. But I also have looked back at it. It's much more expensive than I thought, so I might have to go above 25. try to get some money back, but still at cost.
Yeah.
But like, it's a lot. All right. So today we got. It technically could be sports if you look at the way, because I haven't workshopped the title much since I first talked about it, which was called personality boxing. Because I don't have any other way to talk about it, another title for it, but it makes sense in my head of like getting boxed up into a personality and one type of like. I have what I have written down says people typically build a reputation or become known for like a certain characteristic. I said it's most prevalent in sports, really. Like you'll see a player that's probably typically known for like only defense or like only shooting threes. That like when they start to like branch out and get other things, like people kind of like, I don't know, they kind of like shoot it down or ignore it, or just kind of like if people like start to expand their game a little bit, they're like, nah, just stick to what you're good at. Like you don't need to branch out or anything like that, which I don't understand. The first player that came to mind, honestly, was Ben Simmons. When I said that, but that's because he is someone that should get, some crap for his playing style because of what he's not done over his career, I guess is how to word it. We don't need to have a Ben Simmons rant. That's not why we're here. I'm sure either of you could easily do that. But anyway, this is so I brought Ian on for this topic because I've known Ian since high school. Was it sophomore year?
Yep, sophomore year. That's when I ventured to Southern Ohio.
Right. Your best decision ever.
And I quickly left 3 years later.
Yeah, it's cool here. But anyway, Ian is someone that like I've seen over the last, if that's sophomore year, 3, 4, over 6, 7, 8, 9 years. I don't know.
Man, that's been that long.
Like when you think back, like when you think back, like like high school memories, you're like, oh, what, 2, 3 years ago? And you're like, no, I did a whole 4 years of college in between that. Like, there's a 4 years I got to add on to that.
Yeah, college feels like a fever dream, man.
Yeah. But anyway, I've seen this guy over the last so many years, just like honestly, like transition a lot of his like the way he lives his life from like one thing to like his girlfriend to like his next thing. He doesn't seem like someone that like really gets trapped into a box too much of like, this is how I'm seen. Or he's just kind of like, let's see. You can tell me if you want to keep this in or not. In high school, he started out as like, he was the funny fat kid. And that was like what Ian built his reputation on, really. Like at first in high school with us was like, everyone knew like when you're around Ian, you're going to be laughing a ton. Like that's all that's going to be happening. You're just going to be laughing. There's just going to be something crazy going on. Part of that was down to his laugh itself, but no, he slowly kind of like developed more into I guess not like an internet famous guy, but like you had it very clearly, like you like were big in media, big in sports and stuff like that. And I think a lot of what came around, like where like what you were known for was more like sports and all that stuff too. It was like it transitioned mostly from like class clown kind of thing to, oh, this guy, you can talk to him about sports and no matter what, like you're going to get something that was like not professional, but like better than some like lunchtime discussion where you're arguing over stupid things that don't actually matter at all. So then going into college where you got a lot more serious, I feel like, and you got a lot more, I don't know. You said what? How did you say you felt when you got on here? What was the word you used? That you said you were happy or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I'm content with content, happy, joyous.
It was like a $5 word that I feel like you used. But anyway, like that, you got a little bit more like eloquent in your speech too. Like you can tell, like when you speak, like when you said it earlier, like the way you're talking, like you just hold, like you speak in a very journalist writer way. Like it's very composed all the time. But no, all of that is nothing to anyone that doesn't know Ian at all, but strap in because he's here. I don't know. Yeah, I figured you were good to bring on this because all of that stuff. I don't know how much, I don't think I've looked back at my life to see if I have done that. I think I might have just gotten douchier and douchier each year. So anyway, I wanted to like, at least like pick your brain just like on the idea of this topic of like people getting boxed into a personality, feeling like they're trapped and can't break out of something. Like if people aren't happy with the way they are, but like then they're afraid like, oh, if I start changing how I am, like are people gonna think that like I don't know, are people gonna like shoot it down, say something stupid? I don't know, stuff like that. It's I wanted to pick your brain on that and see what you thought.
Yeah, I mean, I love this topic in and of itself because it's something I've thought a lot about in my own life. I like to believe that as human beings, um, we're no from tomorrow to yesterday to today, nothing is ever going to be entirely the same. We're always changing. I like to call it, our metamorphosis. In the same way a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, we're constantly always changing in some way. But I think this is a powerful topic because so many people are also afraid to embrace who they are, embrace who they feel is a more natural version of themselves, and they let other people define them. And if what we offer in our discussion today helps someone else recognize their personhood, their inner personhood, I should say, if it helps them recognize that and live out that truth finally, as opposed to whatever society tells you should be, um, I think we would have done a good job. But we're just three guys with a microphone, so who knows?
Hey, that's all you need in this world. Just a microphone and a camera, and you're good to go. You got the world at your fingertips there. Noah, I wanted to ask you a question on this because
Yeah, go ahead, man.
we talked a lot about like stuff that holds you back last week, and all the big things that come with that. Do you see yourself in a like if you start to not just come out and be the most confident guy in the world or anything like that, but like if you start to, I think, move towards like working on your confidence, working on things that like you think hold you back, do you feel like you can't, or like you like feel like you're kind of boxed in and trapped as the like into the way you think and the way you are right now, or do you like do you think you find struggles doing that?
Yeah. You mean like to help express more confidence? Is that what you mean? Like,
Yeah,
or
well,
trapped?
so like I don't know, like there's like I guess it might be like habits that you have in your life, or like if you start to like work towards more self improvement of like these things that you think hold you back. Do you see yourself kind of in box? Like I don't know if you've ever tried to work to this point, but then you kind of get like, I don't know, I don't really want to change or stuff like that. If like or you
Yeah,
feel like you
no,
can, yeah,
yeah, no, and I feel that whenever I get to that point, I always think like that's just like my own self, saying like, it's that kind of that voice in the back of your head saying, "Oh, hey, you can't do this." You know what I mean? It's like kind of that. It's kind of like that narrative. But yeah, like I've gotten to that point. Like I feel like in these past couple months, I've made some strides to increase confidence levels. Stuff like that. But then as I get more into it, yeah, there's been times where it's like, oh, like you shouldn't be doing this, or uh, like yeah, like something like holds me back. But I mainly think it's just in my own personal self, my own mind being like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. So
yeah.
and it's just stuff I have to work on more. So
I have okay, yeah, I have noticed over the last couple months, maybe just even in the most recent month, it does seem like you're kind of taking strides a little bit. You have even on like the podcast itself, I feel like you're asking more questions, you're getting more, expansive in answers and stuff like that. Um, saying that you want to DM girls or not like DM or just like it's on the podcast. People have heard it that you said it out loud.
I
It's
mean,
not
yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
or like just
Uh,
saying in general, like, you want to branch out a bit more, get yourself out there, talk to people, put yourself
yeah,
in maybe like more uncomfortable situations, I guess.
yeah.
Um, so I have noticed that, which is good. Um, and I don't, yeah, I think I said last week, I don't want you at my level. It's not safe, not healthy. um, but it's good to see that, like, because you want to, at least. If you didn't want to be a confident guy, I guess that's fine. If it's what you want.
I suppose.
Yeah. But no, if it's what you want to do, I think that's good that you're working towards it and making strides at least. Because I think even Jameson kind of talked about it. Like it hit him like in the middle of our podcast that we did with him. That was like, he was like, oh, I have changed. When he was like starting to think about it, he's like how he's like reading
Mm-hmm.
books more, he's working out more, he's like focusing on himself a bit more, trying different, like branching out and things, like new hobbies and stuff like that. So I guess sometimes it can happen without even realizing it, which I think is good. You know, it's not like you're doing it for someone else, then you really are doing it for yourself. Because I don't know, it's, if it all depends on how you want to feel, I guess. If you want to be someone that just is one thing, like they're known for their thing and that's it. Like if you're the friend that makes people laugh, that's great, and you don't really care, you can stay that way, I guess. It doesn't hurt anyone really, I guess. But I feel like if for like Ian, like how he kind of said, like if we can help someone, you know, work on their inner person or whatever the more Harvard term was that he used.
Your inner child. It's
Yeah.
this belief I have that we all go through certain periods in our life, and you start out from 1 to 7. You are exactly who you are, and you don't care. But I think something happens in our mind at 7 where we become aware that people see us a certain way, and from 7 through adolescence and puberty and hormones raging, that the other people, the people outside of ourselves that are critiquing who we are, that are we get we get our validation from that, and then we change who we are to fit their narrative of us. And then as you kind of get older, and this was what college was big for me in recognizing, was that I don't have to be who the other says I am. I can be me, I can be my inner child. And it was this journey that comes full circle where you start to recognize that, okay, like, so what if I, am a 26-year-old that likes Legos? I like Legos because that's what I did when I was little. That's just one example.
Yeah.
For me, it was getting back to reading and writing and expressing myself through those means that growing up, society told me were more effeminate, that, as a man, you can't have certain emotions, or you can't write about certain emotions or certain feelings, or this longing for acceptance and love. And in turn, you push that down and present what society tells you should be as a 16-year-old man. Like, you should be Mr. Funny, you should be, Mr. Suave. And then and then you start to realize that, society telling you who you should be still doesn't guarantee acceptance. The only thing that does is accepting yourself. And so it's that return to inner child is the term you were looking for. But I at least in my sense, I think that's where confidence comes from. It's recognizing who you are and kind of telling the world, like, I don't care if you think that it's weird or I'm weird or non-conventional. This is the stuff that I like, and this is who I am. Granted, as long as it's not hurting anyone. We know some weirdos out there, but but if you like Legos, if you like puzzles, if you like painting, if you like just running around outside and having fun, finding that again in adulthood, and that's where contentment or happiness lies.
That's yeah, like I said, the Harvard terms. That was very well put, I think. Multiple times I thought I was watching a TED Talk right there. This is why I brought you on. See, we bring people on for the big topics because I don't know what I'm talking about. I just got an ego. That's all. And I just kind of go off that.
No, if I could just say something, like, no, I definitely agree. Like what Ian was saying, like look at what Drew posted on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. Like he did, and he doesn't care what anybody else thinks. Like it could do whatever he wants. Like I don't know. That's kind of where I went, but
I would agree with you with an asterisk though, because I am private for the fact that I am a high school coach for a Christian school, and I don't post things that would should get me fired, but you never know because they're weird. Ian knows it's weird sometimes. There's weird rules.
Yeah,
I don't think I should get fired for posting a picture of me in a reflective jacket with whatever I say in my captions. I don't even remember, but you never know what's out there. So But yeah, I
Yeah.
would say that's just for my own safety, really, at that point, to keep a job, or volunteership technically at this point. But yeah, no, I would say that I've, at least in social media with what I post, I genuinely don't care. It's my job too, I guess, is also social media. So at that point, when I'm on my own account, like my personal stuff, I genuinely, like, I've been on social media all day long. Like, I'm just gonna go post something real stupid on there, especially if it's like on a Snapchat story. It's probably one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. Um, and that's saying something, considering all my Instagram posts are mostly just really, really douchey pictures. Um, but yeah, it's, I don't know if it's confidence. Maybe it is. Maybe it takes a little bit of confidence to post yourself after you lose 24-4 in softball and still act like you won.
I love it.
Yeah, nah, but it's very fun. I enjoy it. I guess, yeah, it's like my inner kid coming out a little bit. I enjoy taking those pictures. I genuinely, it's fun. Like Alex does those poses too. That one.
Yeah.
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 No one knows. I send probably, like, well, not now, but a few weeks back, I used to send one like maybe 3-4 times a week.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about, like, Instagram is a good barometer for this stuff, right? Because in my story of change, there was this period in my life where I started working out, and you start feeling good, and when you're working out, all of a sudden, especially being the chubby kid, and not only being the chubby kid, but being the chubby, funny kid in a majority white school, and how in order to survive, you have to essentialize yourself, where you become this commodity to the white public of the funny black kid in order to skate around the numerous microaggressions to overt aggressions to um, just going unseen. And so the person that I was in high school was a person that existed for sheer survival, and that's something that I can recognize now, because it was between being invisible and, at least if I was going to be laughed at, be the reason that they're laughing instead of the butt of the joke. And so you create this identity where I'd go home and I'd be more of who I am now at home. Like, this is who I've always been at home, but in public I represented a different version of myself, a caricature. It almost felt like, for a lack of a better term, and it's a kind of crude term, a minstrel show. Yeah, if you guys know what minstrel shows are, it's where that people in the early 20th century used to dress up in blackface and, like, impersonate black people, but they would be these ridiculous caricatures, and they'd talk as though they're on a plantation, things like that, where it wasn't a genuine representation of what and who a black person was in America, but it was entertainment. It was a commodity, and it was essentializing or profiting off a race. And on a smaller scale, being in Southern Ohio, being at a school that wasn't necessarily the most welcoming to black and brown people. And then on top of that, recognizing that I need a way to navigate this, it was easier for me to be the funny, fat black kid than it was to be the kid that had social anxiety, that liked to write and read and talk about literature and be the dork. And that's why in high school, I low key commended Solomon, because he embraced exactly who he was in one manner or respect, where, he walked around with 5 books. No one knows if he ever read them, but hey, he did it. He was more man than me in that moment.
Yeah.
But I went from that caricature to eh, to college, in which was, I had started working out. I was playing like 5-6 hours of basketball a day, and I was getting all this attention from women, and any 17, 18-year old, you start getting the attention. You get this inflated sense of self and ego, And then you go to social media, and if you look at my posts from that time, there's this interesting dichotomy that exists where I'm very much who I am now, but again, I'm presenting a commodified version of myself, or at least the version of myself society tells me I should be as an 18, 17, 19-year-old black man, which was society tells you, you're X, Y, and Z, and so you do X, Y, and Z, and you present X, Y, and Z, and then on my Instagram posts, you feed into it because that was getting me the attention or the type of attention I'd never gotten in my life. And so you can see those posts from that time, at least on my end, they filled with cheesy quotes. Everything is Instagrammable. I'm going to get a smoothie. Somehow I wind up taking a photo shoot, and the caption is like something about like what something about juice and life giving me the lemons. And you look back on it and you're like, man, you thought you were so cool. But in reality, that was this exoskeleton or this shield of insecurity and hurt. And from that point and to where I'm at now, I'm thankful. And even I'm sure when I'm 32, I'll look back at who I was now and be like, you still didn't quite figure it out. But at least I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. And that moment for me came where, in fact, I was reading Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, which is a book that discusses not about genuine and a genuine invisible individual, but it discusses how in society the main character, he's this black man that becomes a leader of a communist chapter in his city in Harlem, and he goes through all these interesting moments in life, and he recognizes in the end that the underlying of anything, of everything that he did, the reason he loved the adulation and the praise, and he went to any extent to do it, was because in every other instance in life he felt invisible. His wants and his needs were ignored by society. And there's a quote that's on my Twitter, that's been my Twitter bio for as long as I can remember now, that says, life is to be lived and humanity is won by continuing to play in the face of certain defeat. And to me, that represents embracing yourself. It represents embracing that people aren't going to like you, but you only get to live life when you embrace that people won't like you, but you are undoubtedly who you are at that moment. And for better or for worse, you're trying your best. And that is kind of the guiding points. And then there's another dramatic shift, to touch on social media again, that you start just posting stuff that you want. And for me, that hit in junior year, where I was just like, I'm not an Instagram influencer. Like, the people that follow me all know me. I don't need to have photo shoots when I'm going to go get smoothies. I'm just going to post what I want when I want. And it slowly turned into just embracing the things that I like to do. But it was recognizing that the only way you live is embracing defeat or embracing the hatred that you're going to get for just being you, and recognizing that to embrace that means to just look at those that love you and hold them close.
Is this what a real podcast sounds like?
No, man. That's why dude, I just like it. I just love listening to him speak. As he was saying that, I was like, dude, this dude should just be a professor. I would take any class he would.
Well,
I would take.
he is, right? Or are you
I
don't
am
know
a
if you like,
teaching assistant right now. I'm
yeah.
trying to finish up my master's degree, but I think I've decided reporting it here on the podcast first. In 3 to 5 years, I'm gonna go get my PhD, I think.
Oh.
And so I
I would
was
go.
thinking about it. I was like, do I want to do it? But I've been convinced. I was like, I'm gonna find something worth writing a dissertation on, and hopefully add some meaningfulness to the discussion.
I was going to say, if you could be a professor, what would you want to do?
I'd probably do something in media studies, but more not like a media practicum class, like a news writing class that I teach now, because I'm very limited in that capacity. I'd love a media seminar where I look at things like the you guys have heard of this, right? The manosphere and the way that social media and media play into how men are socializing and forming these pseudo bonds online in these really toxic red pill communities, like the Andrew Tates we were talking about earlier, and the Fresh and Fits and the late Kevin Samuels and all these guys that are just really angry at women, and yet they express it in this way of not dealing with their own trauma, but saying like, to be an alpha male you have to do X, Y, and Z, and it's like, no, you're just kind of a sexist dick. And so I think I do like a media seminars class surrounding that, or along the lines of understanding how race and politics play into sports coverage and how we are politicized through sport. And so along those lines, if I were ever gonna, teach something or write a class myself.
Yeah, I could easily see that for you. Makes sense.
I would take the class.
Sign me up.
I'm being serious.
I was about to say front row, but I know I wouldn't.
Drew would be.
I wouldn't be there early enough.
Would you come if it was an 8
a.m.?
Next question. No, I make my 8 a.m.s. I take my. How many skips do you allow? Like, can I get like 3 to 5?
Well, they at the school I work at, they're at 9, so I don't see half
9.
Yeah, I don't see.
Yeah,
half the semester.
Sign me up. I'm there. Kinda.
See, hold on. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had to plug my phone in. Cut, edit.
Nope. No cuts.
No cuts.
Honestly, anytime someone brings up race with DC, the only thing I think of is I don't know why that's the first thing I think of, but I just think of all right, yeah, see you later, Joe. Hey, what's up, cuh?
Oh man, and that's a whole discussion.
He meant well, I think. It's hilarious to watch.
It means well completely, but I think it's also a function of what that school enabled, and how there was such a lack of teaching regarding race. It was like this elephant in the room that was always ignored, unless we were reading a book in English class that had the N-word, and then all of a sudden teachers were making us write papers about why we should or shouldn't say the N-word. I mean, yeah, it was like a fever dream. I can't believe that place.
I would say the only time I honestly remember hearing a teacher talk about race was, I won't say the guy's name or anything like that, but he was our Bible teacher our senior year, Ian. I'll edit this. And because we couldn't have facial hair in high school, really, we weren't allowed to. That was our thing. And back then it was probably honestly just this chin hair. This wasn't here, and any of the 4 hairs here, that wasn't here, but it was just that I had a little bit of chin hair then. There were 2 kids in my class that were both black, and they both had facial hair. I'll edit out their names too. So our teacher took both of them and was like, hey, you guys need to shave before you come to school tomorrow. Just, clean it up. You're good to go. Don't worry about it. But as he was pulling them aside, he was also like, oh, Drew, you too. And he pulled me aside. I was like, bro, I got 4 things. You're not going to say anything about my chin. He was like, Drew, you also need to clean up some facial hair here and all that. And I was like, I'll take it. Compliment, I guess, It says I have enough facial hair that needs to be shaved. But I remember him talking to me after class that day, and he was like, honestly, it's really not at a point where I feel like it needs to be shaved. He's like, I just didn't feel like singling out the only 2 black kids in class was something I should do. And I was like, okay, I don't know if that's good or bad. But I guess if it makes you sleep at night.
I will never forget when we're sitting there in class, and he goes, Ian Ricari, can you define for us what a kickback is?
Just only singles out you guys.
And me and Ricard just looked at each other like, this can't be real. That place was a fever dream, man.
And it's the same thing as I'm probably not going to keep his name in either, but it's the same thing as the other guy. I think they all meant well, or at least that teacher meant well with it. I don't think he meant to be racist. Maybe it came off as that, or just uneducated, which could be it. He's a pretty old guy.
There's a lot of, and this was the problem there, and not to get into a critique of my high school experience, but it was a place that did not foster, and this is across the board unilaterally. Everyone I talked to that is a person of color that went to Dayton Christian had a horrible experience there. And yet, somehow, administration didn't hear our complaints, didn't listen, didn't do anything. And they propagated this culture that you can say whatever you want, do whatever you want to a person of color, and there would be no retribution. It disturbed me when Taiwan was kicked out of school for something that an individual in our grade did less than 2 years before. But someone was allowed to walk while Taiwan was forced out. And it was also disturbing to see. And I remember in active time looking at the way that they spoke to him and the way that they discussed him and the way that they reprimanded him. More than anything else, I think, whatever Taiwan's doing with his life now, I'm sure, he's better suited. But that school lacked the facilities to properly understand and diagnose ways to reach black women and black boys and black girls and Hispanics, and they lacked the facilities to reach them because they never empowered people that were brown to teaching roles. And then they wondered why, unless it was to make a joke, many of us at DC never spoke out or spoke up or wanted to contribute in class. It was this feeling of you're in a zoo and you're being watched and looked at as though you're some type of animal. And that in and of itself was one of the most exhausting experiences every day, because you are going to school putting on this mask knowing that these people don't accept you, they don't love you, they don't see you for who you are. And whether it was well intentioned, ill intentioned, it still had the same effect. And so it's always frustrating for me to see an institution slap Christian on there, and yet they never vouched for the least of these. And I think about how in the Bible there's a verse that says, what you do unto the least of these is what you're doing to me. And it's Jesus talking about how you treat the poor or the downtrodden or the outcast is how you treat me. And that school never exemplified that. In fact, they just turned it into some form of entertainment or tokenism. And that's the thing that's unforgivable to me. And I still harbor a lot of hurt there. But, onward and upward, I just hope that the kids that are people of color in that institution now have at least some more resources than I do. Because I was blamed for stealing crayons out of an elementary kid's locker because they said the person that was taking them was black and had glasses.
It's a good profile right there.
Really narrowed down the subject, huh?
Yeah, I guess I never knew it was really that bad, but I guess like you said, you guys never really spoke out about it. And I guess it probably, now that if I look back at it, it seems like it was almost like, of the people that I talked to that weren't white at that school, it was kind of just like, yeah, we'll laugh at everything that goes on, like anything that happens that like, oh yeah, that's racist, but I'll laugh at it because you're joking around, whatever. So I guess I can see, if I look back on it, it definitely was just kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Like you got,
Word
it
that comes
was
to
it was
mind
it
is
was looked at.
cruel. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
it was
that's, I mean,
cruel.
that's what the actual word is. But I was saying like it was appropriated, kind of something like that, you know.
Yeah, were.
But it shouldn't
I
be.
mean, like, I just remember, senior lounge, and all of a sudden, hordes of
I feel like
people,
I feel like I know where this one's going.
hordes of people are asking me, white people at that, asking me, why can't I say the N word? And in that moment, I was almost in this period of disbelief, because in my mind, it's something that registers innately, and whether and obviously black people's beliefs on this differ, but to me, it was almost an insult to my humanity to look me in the eyes, be dead set, and say, why can't I say it? While also in this period where you're old enough to understand what power structures do and how they morph language, and how you'd never go up and ask a woman, like, oh, why can't I call you the B word? Why can't I say it? All your girlfriends call you that, because you recognize that it's disrespect, and because you recognize the humanness in that. And that moment taught me that, like, a majority of these people don't see my humanness. And that goes to our main discussion on this podcast about being boxed in, and how society puts you in boxes because it's easier to define you that way, instead of recognizing that you're a human being that is multifaceted, with different thoughts and emotions and opinions. That Oh, where'd Noah go?
I don't know, but I actually feel smart now because I have written down right here, multifaceted. See that? Boom. I know things. Noah will come back, I'm sure.
But
Yeah.
to go back, it's like the complexity of human nature, and society puts you in this box. They put you in this lane, and they tell you to run down it. I'm forgetting the social scientist's name right now. Welcome back, Noah.
Hey, how are you? Sorry, it just cut out. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, but
I
I was
didn't want
just
to.
picking up on how a lot of feeling boxed in stems from society telling us what box is, or our, not society, that may be too grandiose, but our immediate society, our social circle telling us who we are, and us running down that pathway. And if we're going to pull the microscope out and look at this on the macro sense, where we're looking at society as a whole, part of it is also recognizing which systems put us into certain pathways that are harmful to us, and recognizing how to break out of that mold. And like I was talking about earlier, with went during my 17, 18, 19-year old phase, where I was in the gym, I was taking shirtless pictures, I was everything that I currently hate, right? Why was I those things? It's because society's structures of the patriarchy, and of masculinity, and of what the notions of what a black man was supposed to be, told me that there was a certain payoff in me being those things. And that payoff was that I wanted attention from women. I was the fat kid all of my life. I was the guy that loved sports but was unathletic and didn't want to come to grips with that. And that inner struggle and turmoil of, like, I want to be in the NBA, and being slower than molasses, average height, and fat, and that was never gonna happen. But I couldn't come to terms with that, and so instead I became what society told me I would be in order to get that payoff. I wanted love. I wanted adulation. I wanted women to see me as desirable. And this goes also to our manosphere short discussion that we have, that a lot of the men that end up taking the red pill, so to speak, in quotes, it's because what they're searching for is love and admiration and loyalty and care. And instead of finding it in breaking society's molds for you, they just double down. I doubled down in a different sense, where that phase in my life forced me to develop an eating disorder, where, I went from 230 pounds to 130 pounds within 3 years. And I looked almost malnutrition. I had this real identity crisis where the way it worked for me, and obviously disclaimers for those that went through the same struggle, is I used to abuse laxatives where I'd eat this 16 count wings, fries, the strawberry cake, the whole 9 yards, because I felt so alone and empty. And then I would take 4, 5, 6 laxatives, and it would all come out, and I'd feel better because I felt empty. And it goes back to so many men, and I'm sure women I deal with this in a different aspect, but I can only speak to my experience as a man. We are told that if we're the manly man, if we are making bread, if we have a 6 pack, the abs, wears the douchey clothes, and is everything that we find cringy but society tells us men are supposed to be, that we will get the attention and loyalty and love that we're looking for. And in reality, that's false promises. And there's a social scientist that has a great book about this. I'm forgetting both the book's name and the theory, but in the gist of it says this, that basically society has promises that it gives us due to the patriarchy, right? And then what happens oftentimes, and why a lot of people feel disillusioned, is that those promises that society gives us don't actually come to fruition, because we are living under things like late stage capitalism, where we're told that, oh, if you go to college and get a good job and you'll be happy. I went to college, and it's been hell to find a good job that gives me benefits and a livable wage and people that I don't hate working with. And the reality is that those are false promises built off of society's institutions, the things like like the school, or things like our social interactions with one another and how we're socialized. And so we're boxed in based off of these false promises, and then you're told to survive, while the 1% and while the wealthy and the influential in society get to break free of those molds. And so my life story has been more so about breaking free of the false promises society gave me, and rediscovering my inner child, to bring it back to what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. And to do so, you have to shed whatever your social circle says you are, and look in the mirror and say, no, this is who I am. I am the guy that likes to read, likes to write, enjoys rom-coms for as horrible as they are, and watches LMN movies on a Friday night because why not, and doesn't like going to parties and doesn't like drinking and those things. Like, it's saying, I'm not going to believe the false promises anymore, and I'm going to simply focus on the things that I know bring me joy in life. And so whether that is traveling, whether that is working out for some, whether that is sitting down and meditating or prayer, whatever religion you may practice, it starts first by admitting to yourself that the path you're walking down is a path someone else laid out for you and not your own. And once you do that, you can start taking the road less traveled.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
No,
I think I picked a good person for this one.
no, I definitely agree. And the thing that I like the most is like I'm sitting here and I understand it, like I think the way Ian says it, it's a way that you can like interpret it, I understand what he's saying. Like it makes sense. I'm not like um I'm not like I don't have the feel of like dozing off. You know what I mean? That sort of
Yeah,
thing. It's like
yeah.
it makes sense. Like I can understand it. So no, this is awesome.
He does very
Yeah,
good with like. Sorry, were you good? No. Okay.
yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
Like
Yeah,
where my mind just runs and I say like 8 different half thoughts. Ian does very well to wrap all of them up or like connect
yes,
everything back to the point where he comes back around. And I just like I
yes.
noticed that just there at the end, and I was like, huh, he did really good there to bring everything back in. I was like, I don't think I do that. I just keep going and find something along the way.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I think the one thing that really resonated with me during that was just the school system thing. I really think like especially going through it, like whether it's elementary like the public school system, but also like the societal norms of going to school or going to college, and then you'll find a good job. Like that's the norm. That's what honestly that's what I was that's what I was told. Like, that's what I was told coming out of high school. It's like you have to go to college. You have to go to college and then you'll find a good job, stuff like that. So it makes sense that kind of breaking away from those norms is crucial,
Yep.
I think. So.
And I mean, Noah, to that point, I mean, think about that phrase in and of itself, how that denies the humanity of the individual that found a different path for themselves. I know people that have made a lot of money for themselves and live a good life
Sure.
off of things like e-commerce, or they're a union worker, or those types of things. I was listening to a podcast today on the Daily that talked about the coal strike in Alabama and how that stems from union workers not getting their fair due. And a lot of those people they know what they're worth, and they're very intelligent, and yet society tells us that you can only make a living, you can only be a viable contributor to society if you pass through the institutions of higher education. And and in my mind, I'm like, how can you say such a thing while denying that for millions of years humans have provided for themselves and their family and their friends through
Yeah.
means that didn't directly involve education? And that's not to say like education isn't important. I'm someone that is in higher ed. I mean, graduated and I was like, shoot, might as well get another degree. But it's also the recognition that if it's not something you want, don't feel pressured into doing it because it doesn't change your validity as a human being. There's people in my program where I'm like, how are you here? And they hate it, but they're doing it because they feel pressed by society to say like, oh, once I get this degree, I'll be worth something. And my whole goal and my whole mission is to tell people that regardless of whether you're living up to societal standard for success, to break the mold or box that it puts you in, you have to first find success within yourself. And that means recognizing things like, hey, maybe I'm not cut out for higher ed, and that's fine. And if someone's a coal miner, they may be a coal miner, but it's still honest work that provides you 70, 80, $90,000 per year. Truck drivers making 80, $90,000 per year. And yet society looks down on them for doing what they have to provide. Just because someone may not necessarily be, someone that holds a PhD or a master's degree or even a bachelor's of arts or a bachelor's of science, all of that stuff is just social engineered cachet. That's what it is. And to recognize that is to also relinquish the value that you getting a degree or me getting a postgraduate degree doesn't make me any better than Davis, who didn't get a degree. It just means I liked this subject enough to want to study it more. And breaking that norm in society, and recognizing that the norms society gives you actually are more detrimental than beneficial is when you give yourself the freedom to flow within whatever box best defines you in the moment. And giving yourself the freedom to do so lets you live a happier life in the end.
Yeah.
I never feel like I need to add more. I feel like he just covers it all. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's even what Ian said at the start of this is like, we are just three dudes at the mic. But I think Ian is very clearly proven. He knows what he's talking about here. A lot of experience with it, but that's what our goal is here is like, it doesn't always have to be something we say like is like right there. It fixes your life. Like that's not going to happen probably anyway with as much good stuff as Ian said it. Like it's not just you're not going to listen to this and be cured.
Exactly.
It's something that like, we think it just like if it resonates with you a little bit, like, maybe kind of like plants a seed, I would say, a little bit here. And then, down the line, you get much more out of it later and stuff like that. When you like go through your life and work with all of this kind of stuff that we talked about with this topic. But yeah, that's mainly our thing is, everything we say, we just hope it eventually gets something moving in your head, lets you think a little bit, and makes you ask some questions. And then in return, maybe you get a little bit better out of it and maybe you learn some things about yourself, which I think would be great.
Yeah. We measure success so much in results. I think success is in process because there's days where I have my bad days, I have my good days, I have days where I feel on top of the world, and days where I feel like the world's on top of me. But it's recognizing the humanness in your process and going through the day to day saying, all I can do is be a little bit better than yesterday, be a little bit more free than yesterday, and know myself a little more than yesterday. Um, when you break it down like that, instead of saying, I have to figure life out, I have to figure out how to break free of however these people have defined me, and instead you just say, I'm getting to know myself a little bit more every day, it relinquishes that pressure of expectation. And once you flip it on its head, that you're just getting to know yourself, then you're free to be who you want to be, and you don't have to live up to, oh, this person was X, Y, and Z 3 years ago. Well, life happens, and I've changed. I don't have to be that whenever I hang out with that person again. I can embrace who I am now because as you know more, you do more, and you do better. And those are the words of Maya Angelou.
I love it. The best part about this, and kind of the worst part since I have to edit, is that I don't know what I want to use for a teaser. Usually I have an idea because I'm like, oh, that was a really good part of it, or like that was a funny part. I just want to use that, but like I genuinely don't know what I would use at this point. So much.
I think you could. I'd like.
I'll figure it out. I usually pick it out during the edit too. Like I listen through and I'm like, you know what? That was what really like piqued my interest. I'm gonna try that.
Your teasers always work on me because every time I'm like, okay, I now have to know what they were talking about.
I was mean today, honestly. I knew what I was doing. Obviously,
You're doing
with
exactly
Noah's,
what you were doing.
I couldn't let the people hear what it was. I had to cut it right there, as the words coming out.
That was just rude. I was like, Drew really, really stifled me with this one.
I wanted people to go listen to it. Like, we got Noah. We got Noah to go. I was ready. Noah gave me the topic I wanted to talk about for so long, and then inside of that, let me just take a run through his brain.
It was good.
Pause.
It was good.
Yeah.
Well, Drew, I think it's only apt that we turn this on to you, though. In what ways do you feel that you're trying to break people's notion or idea of you? In what ways have you, and in what ways do you still struggle with that?
Okay. I guess I should have thought about this more since it was my topic. I don't know. I think a lot of what I want is like to be seen as a little bit more serious because I mean, I even say it. I don't even know. I don't know when I'm joking sometimes. So I know for a fact other people probably don't know. That's one for sure. Is that like I just feel like people always just assume I'm gonna try to. I mean, that's what I like to do is try to find the more positive side or outlook on things. Unless it's sports, sometimes that's when my rants happen. So that's all bets are off. But I think maybe to be taken a little bit more serious. I don't know. That's the first thing I think off the top of my head. I don't think I struggle with people. I think people see me as confident probably because of my Instagram. And the sarcasm. The sarcasm definitely is it helps a lot because it just I could easily just brush something off right away. Like if it's something that's crappy in my life, like, oh no, don't worry about it. I actually said the same thing about myself yesterday. Don't worry about it. And sometimes I might not be lying. I might. I've gotten pretty good at laughing at myself, which I don't know if that's healthy, but I feel like a little bit you need to be able to laugh at yourself.
Oh,
like don't take it too seriously.
Yes.
But like, yeah. I don't know. I say the biggest part is definitely just wanting to be seen as less of a kid, maybe. I don't know, like immature, or that I can't really take care of myself, something like that.
Yeah. I think you have a common struggle that we all face. Is that at what point do people ever start taking us seriously, or are we forever going to be, the 15-year-old with a weird haircut?
Yeah, I don't have a weird haircut now. It's fine. I stopped drinking soda mostly. I've got books sitting here. I'm not going to move them because there's things on top of them because I read them all the time, obviously. But like, I write things down. I used a big word like multifaceted.
Yep.
I've grown up.
in ways, yes.
Yeah. But also, I don't want to lose that kid side of me. So that's where I play into my, I don't care. I'll joke about most things, I'll laugh at myself. I'll post that picture, whatever. I'll take a photo shoot when I get a smoothie. I don't care.
But yours serve two drastically different purposes than my photos.
Right.
Mine
were it is a different end. Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say that, like, whenever I post, I get all my comments and everything from all the boys and all that stuff. I don't say I hate that. Obviously, I love it. It's just guys being dudes, though, is how I see it. It's fun because they see that, like, I think they can see that I'm being ironic when I post those things. At least I hope. I hope someone's not taking it. Actually, there's a part of me that hopes people take it serious because I think that's funny. I genuinely think it would be hilarious if someone saw those posts and was like, "Is this guy being real?"
Sorry,
Ian's getting a phone call.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Yeah, but no, there's the other part of me that, if someone doesn't take it serious, I kind of would laugh at it. But I guess that's the hard part is like, I want people to take me serious for the things that I'm serious about and then joke about the things that I joke about. And that's where like, it starts with me also is finding that line of like, well, what do I joke about and what do I take serious and stuff like that, But I guess it is just more frustrating when I look at it as the fact like people just saw me as a joke for that. That's cool. I was actually being honest and serious about that. But, that's something I have to work on too. So,
yeah, the hardest struggle, I will say. One of the things that when because I had a similar issue when I was like, I need to start growing up, and not saying like I don't want to enjoy life, but I need people to know that like there's more there than just the sports guy. One of the things that helped me honestly was reading three books that I would recommend. And don't read self-help books. Whoever's listening, please don't. Those books are so bad for you. Read actual books. And so some of the books that changed my life, A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. I love that book. The Old Man in the Sea by Ernest Hemingway as well. But also a book I just finished, Hearts in Atlantis, is a great book about friendship and brotherhood and love and kind of about how society limits us in our expression of love in brotherhood, especially as men, and how it's hard for us to say like I love you, man, and how that comes off weird at times. And
You gotta always follow it up with like an emoji or like a joke right after.
yeah, exactly. But all of that is integral to people taking you more seriously and seeing you as multifaceted. And so I think those are some books that help me with that. I'm sure there's more that I'm blanking on right now, but um, reading more really helps me see myself enough to say like, okay, like, maybe if I start expressing certain emotions more to people, they'll recognize that there's more there.
Yeah, that's big for sure. I don't know if I have much more, honestly.
Well,
I had like 5 bullet points, and Ian just killed all of them. Not killed, but you did very good, is what I'm saying.
all right. I mean, if there's nothing else.
Yeah, I think we gave plenty for people to think about, and compare to their own lives, all that kind of stuff.
I'm excited. I hope we help somebody.
Yeah,
anybody.
I think this one might have the most like replayability, honestly.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
Come back to it whenever you want.
I don't want to be that guy, but I have to completely flip the script. I have to know, since we're not going to have Ian on next week, I have to know it. Sorry, I know. We just got deep in conversation. It was great, don't get me wrong, but the sports guy in me has to come back to it. I have to know Ian's prediction for the Browns this year.
My prediction for the Browns this year?
Yeah.
10-7.
Really?
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Noah said that they can't go any worse than 6-5 in those first 11 games.
Well, that to me, that's my barometer. I do think that they pick up 5 or 6 losses, and then when Predator comes back, they rear it up near the end. I mean, so 6-5 through the first 11 makes sense to me.
All right, I guess. I want to know what your week 1 prediction is, because that's both of your teams.
I know.
And it's big now. It's huge with Baker.
Huge.
Named
Baker
as the starter officially today.
I think the Panthers kill the Browns, honestly, and I think Baker plays one of the best games of his career.
And then just falls off rest of the year, probably. Like the Panthers do.
I had this realization. I was talking to my roommate in Colorado about Baker. And I was like, the reason Baker Mayfield struggles or at times looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league and then the next week looks like one of the worst is because unlike a franchise quarterback, Baker's not good at anything. Like, he's just average at everything. He's completely average at everything. So he's in that mold of, Kirk Cousins isn't going to wow you with his arm strength or his precision accuracy. He's just not going to lose the game for you on most occasions. And Baker is in that mold where Baker isn't necessarily fast like a Lamar Jackson. He isn't necessarily a tough runner like a Josh Allen and doesn't have a cannon arm like a Josh Allen. He doesn't have the flair and eccentricness of a Patrick Mahomes. He's not ever going to be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, who to me are just, you can't really define them. What is Baker's one strength that you're like, we can build an offense around that? Because
he's got that dog in him.
No.
For shorter quarterbacks like Drew Brees, for example, Drew Brees built a Hall of Fame career off of his short accuracy. Drew Brees was never going to be able to sling the ball 60 yards downfield, but he was not going to miss a pass that was 10 to 15 yards. And Baker doesn't have that level of ball placement, nor does he have the discipline to necessarily master an offense. And so I was like, that's a problem with Baker. Against the right defenses, all of his average skills get elevated. But against good defenses to great defenses, his lack of one trait that makes him better than the rest lowers the tide of all of the rest of his skills. Like when Lamar is struggling to connect on passes, he still has that ability to hurt you in the run game. Versus like if Baker is struggling to connect on passes, then he's not hitting short, he's not hitting medium routes, he can't throw a deep route to save his life, and he's not gonna hurt you in the run game. You're not gonna believe in his play action. It's that if Baker doesn't have everything going, he'll have nothing going. And that's what makes him this quarterback where you're like, how do you look so good week 1 and look terrible in week 6? Make it make sense.
No, that's great because it makes sense. Look at the Packers game. Dude couldn't do anything, and it all went wrong.
Nothing at all. And it's funny because the Browns got rid of Baker, and now I get to watch him on my other team for another 17 games. So
You don't know if it's guaranteed.
What, they're bringing Darnold in off the bench?
Darnold, is Cam still there?
Nope. It's Darnold.
What about, is it
Matt
PJ
Corral
Walker
or whatever? And then they still have PJ. They still got PJ on the roster.
That guy was terrible.
As long as he still keeps getting contracts, man. And the funny thing is, I'm a Baker fan. I love Baker at Oklahoma, but
he woke up feeling dangerous that day.
I hope.
I'd tell you, he's like a less. He definitely is a frat boy. What am I looking for? I don't know. He's a non-baby face Zach Wilson.
Oh, the mom hunter. What did he say he was?
He could be the MILF hunter if that's what you're going for, but he
Yeah.
got that dog in him for sure.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's my fantasy football drafting strategy this year: is do they have that dog in them?
Goes undefeated.
Oh yeah.
And so that's my prediction for the Browns. I hope Nick Chubb can have a good year.
He needs more than a good year, I think.
We'll see what happens with Kareem Hunt and his situation. But more than anything else, and Noah, I'm eager to know your opinion on this. To me, Kareem Hunt wanting a trade signifies that something is amiss in the Browns organization with a lot of guys. Because I've never seen a team so talented that doesn't seem to get along in that necessary way to win. I mean, what team is gunning in a Super Bowl year has one of their star running backs wanting out when he has no leverage, unless it's for the fact that maybe Kareem Hunt feels that something is wrong in that organization. And I've been thinking about that a lot. Like the way even though Baker was not good last year, and you can objectively say that, the way they kicked him to the curb and poo-pooed on his name rubbed a lot of guys the wrong way. And the Haslams aren't necessarily sports greatest owners either. So
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up because I don't know who that really falls on. Does it fall on coaching, or is it something with maybe Andrew Berry? Because up to this point, I think I've actually liked what Andrew Berry's done with the team. So yeah, it's very interesting to kind of see. I never really thought about it that way. Where yeah, you're kind of gunning for Super Bowl contenders, and you have this guy who is. Who can play he's a guy like the dude is good, and why would he want out now? It's kind of interesting,
especially with no leverage at all.
Yeah,
the whole thing makes no sense. So I was like, is there something? Is there something that's off that people feel that moving forward? I don't know. The Browns sold their soul to win this season, and if they don't have any draft picks for the foreseeable future, at least early ones. So
yeah,
we'll see if it pans out. If you win, is it worth it? Does that erase all your sins in getting there? I think
I
that's a
mean,
question.
yeah. I mean, fan wise, I think it does. I mean, you put W's up on the board, and I think
There's been the number of Browns fans that I've seen that will just, as long as we win, everything
yeah,
will be.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So,
But
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm in that same vein. I'm a process over results guy.
No, I
So
agree. No, I agree. I mean, I'm not gonna say, hey, we go out there and win, 12, 13 games. I'll be happy, but it's like, all right, but there has to be something more. I don't know. That's kind of how I think of it.
it's like it's like how with Miami Heat fans, if we're going to talk about basketball, that 2006 championship inherently feels different compared to 2012 and 13, where that '06 one, it's a team that was built versus 12 and 13. It's a team that's bought. It's why Alex Rodriguez can never be as revered in New York. It's when you buy something, when you buy the championship, when you shell out the money for the guys that you think will help you get there, and you do anything to do so, I think it dilutes the taste of glory in the end. Versus like with my Oklahoma City Thunder, a decade of success with a whole bunch of guys that we drafted, and maybe this is me rationalizing not winning a championship, but if you're telling me that, oh, the Thunder win the 2012 NBA championship, um, but then they spend the next 9 years losing, I would have much rather had the 9 years of being competitive and being almost there than the one championship and then you're stuck.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, process matters more than anything else. It's why Reggie Miller's revered. He never won anything in Indiana,
Hmm.
but there were some pretty exciting teams that put together some pretty impressive runs, and he went through the process. I mean, look at the back half of Ronaldo's career now, just trying to chase something, and it's watering down what existed at Madrid and before that Manchester United, where the version of Ronaldo we're seeing in soccer now is just a shell of one of the greatest players, just because you want to circumvent the process. And so that's the part where I'm like, how will I feel? Lifelong Browns fan. If they win the Super Bowl, they do the impossible, the thing that people say would never happen in my lifetime. But it's with the team I hate the most. Not the Colt McCoy teams or the Brandon Whedon teams or, none of them. But it's with the team I hate the most that has Deshaun Watson on it. I'll be conflicted.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I think you also got to keep in mind teams will be fired up to destroy the Browns when he's back.
Oh,
Oh
God.
yeah. Look at that. Look at that
They want to
first
be the
game.
team. Yeah, they want to be the team that destroys Deshaun Watson. Yeah, he plays the Texans in his first game. Someone's going to try to kill him in that game.
100%.
The whole season, it's going like they're going to go after him.
I don't know how you feel about this, Ian, but like as like a Browns fan, it's like I'm still conflicted. It's like I want to root for the Browns, but like we have this dude on the team, and it's like, man, like the whole NFL like just looks at us now. It's like we were already the laughing stock of the league for the past multiple decades. Like now we have this guy at quarterback, and it's like we're still just continue to. It's like I don't know. It's just like it
Yep,
sucks.
I know exactly the feeling that you're talking about. Where prior to Predator Deshaun Watson coming out, if the Browns had a team that you look down the roster and you see Amari Cooper, Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, you'd be like, man, that's a really good football team. You
Yeah.
you gotta respect them. And instead, you look down and you're just like, and that's the Deshaun Watson cloud that's been cast over Cleveland. And will it? My thing is that if you sell your soul, it better pay off, because the devil always gets his cut. And for the Browns, that's bound to happen. When you sell your soul, the devil always gets his cut. And the Browns met the devil at the crossroads and said, "How much will it cost to win?" And they shelled out millions for Deshaun Watson.
$230 million.
Don't even get me started on the contract. From a contract perspective, I don't understand that number, but it is what it is.
Yeah. $230 million, fully guaranteed. Just absurd.
There's no outs for the team if things aren't working. So what if you get into year 3 of this, Deshaun Watson isn't what he was, and so you took the PR hit, you didn't win, and then this guy's locked up for millions.
Yeah.
Lose. But that'd be the most Browns thing.
I mean, I can only imagine. If they don't have a Super Bowl by the time his contract's over, it's going to be just an absolute nightmare.
Yep.
An absolute nightmare. I don't know. Sorry, Drew. We're not sports talk, but
all good.
I love it. Okay.
We good?
Yeah, I'm content. Sorry. Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Cool. I don't care.
Alrighty. Sure, you'll have a fun time editing all hour and 24 minutes of this one.
There's really only like 2 parts. I think we actually have to where it paused. That's about it. It should be easy.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it'll just be me listening back to the TED Talk. Yeah, but like we said earlier, we hope you get something out of this. Hope it stirs in your brain a little bit, gets you thinking, gets you questioning things. I don't know. Maybe feel free to reach out to me or Noah, and we can try to get you to Ian if you actually have questions. Because I'm not going to be able to answer them. I don't know what's going on half the time with this. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Ian, thanks for coming. It was great to have you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Noah, love having you here, obviously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's it.
I'll see y'all.
Peace
And chicken grease.